Hi everybody, I'm Chef Julia and welcome to Bean of the Week. I want you to see in the background how excited the boxers are to take part in my cooking class. You see them lounging here. I guess they're not excited until they see some actual food, but they like to keep me company. So let me get this lighting good and get started with the Bean of the Week. So this week's bean is called, and I don't know if I'm saying it right. Where did it go? Help if I had it. I think it's pronounced flageolet, like casserole, so we're gonna call it flageolet beans. And they look kind of odd, you know, they're kind of green. They look this really odd color green. And if you compare them to my other beans, they are a different color. Like I collect all my beans in this jar, and they're at the top, and they do look distinctively green. So what I'm gonna do with this jar of beans is when it's full, I'm gonna make like a multi-bean soup. So every time I make the Rancho Gordo beans, I put just a handful in this, it's like a quart-size mason jar. So I figure at some point when it's full, it will make a really delicious, like those 15 bean soups. I don't know how many beans it's gonna have in it by the time I get through, but it could have 15. I see some people are coming on. Hi Terry, hi Glenda, hi Wendy. Thanks for watching. Sam, Betty, Denise. This is the Bean of the Week. So every week I try to make some kind of new bean recipe. And this week it's the flageolet bean, or it's a white bean, and we're making a gratin, gratin is like the word for breadcrumbs that have been, you know, ground up and put on top of casseroles. But usually gratin or gratin, how I always knew it is the breadcrumbs were real buttery. Let's see if there's any questions or anything. Joyce Brown, hi Joyce, hi Jan. But we're not gonna use butter and we're not gonna use cheese, we're just gonna use our breadcrumbs. So, hi Terry. Here's how the beans look when they're done cooking. Remember I showed you how they were very green, but after they've cooked for 2 hours, you know, I don't want them to drip out, but you know, they are very pale. Now they look almost beige. They don't look green anymore. And I've got the stove turned off because they cooked as long as they needed to cook. So I cooked them the Rancho Gordo way, which is, if you don't know, there's a video on YouTube of me cooking the Rancho Gordo style beans. And it's just basically, and I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but let's see. Glenda says, love those beans, use them all the time. So somebody's familiar with them. But on the video on YouTube, it's called How to Cook Rancho Gordo Beans. I go through all the steps, so I won't go through them again here, but I basically saute peppers, onions, not peppers, celery, onions, carrots, and garlic. And then I cook them in the beans, and here's my bean pot over here. I use my Christmas gift, which was this nice Le Creuset 4.5 quart pot, which is the perfect size for me because it's just, you know, we have a very small family, just me and my husband and I. So I don't cook giant vats of beans, so this is perfect for us. And I just put them in there with, you know, cover them with water by a couple inches, and the water cooks down. So as the water cooks down, you could add more water. And one thing I want to point out to you is, by the time your beans are done, they ought to look like this, where there's not that much liquid covering your beans, because that way the liquid that's left in your pot of beans is very concentrated. So you don't want them to be swimming in lots of liquid, because then your beans will be very bland. And with the Rancho Gordo beans, the bean broth is really good tasting. That's one of the best parts of the Rancho Gordo beans. Hi Carol, hi Karen. So, you know, be sure and let your beans cook on the stove if you can. Now I know some of you find it difficult to cook your beans on the stove top, but I say do it anyway, because The Rancho Gordo company, I'm going to start cutting up this onion while I'm talking. I'm going to use half of this large onion, and I have my skillet. I think you guys can see my cutting board, all right? I have my skillet right here next to me. I've got it already on medium-high heating up because I'm going to saute these onions. But the Rancho Gordo company will even tell you that they don't recommend that you cook the beans in the Instant Pot because they'll tell you that the beans are young and you know, they don't really require the pressure cooker. So, you know, that's what I've read. But then somebody posted that they cook their Rancho Gordo beans in the oven. And so you can try that. They just, you know, cover them with liquid, cook them in the oven. I can't remember the time and temperature, but I wrote it down somewhere. If that person's watching, put your directions on here for us. Facebook is telling me that you can buy stars to send me. Basically, they're like 1 cent each. So Facebook pays me in stars. And I think it's just kind of a thing for them to entice people like me to do more live stuff because people are moving to YouTube and other TikTok and whatnot. So it's an incentive. Don't worry about it. If that pops up, that's what that means. I'm going to cut up my onion. So I cut it horizontally a couple times because it's a huge onion. And then I cut it vertically. I rotate it and cut it vertically down the lines that the onion already has. And I'm going to use, this onion is so big, I'm only going to use half of the half because already the half of the half to me is like a small onion. And I don't like to have too much of one thing in my dishes. And I can kind of tell that in this recipe, we're only using 2 cups of cooked beans. So I don't really want more than this amount of onion in my 2 cups of beans, because if I use this gigantic onion, I could end up with way more onions than I have beans. So as it stands, look what happened. I probably have about 1 cup of onions, which is about right. So these are things that nobody told me. You know, I just kind of figured these kind of things out myself because of my experiences cooking. So that's kind of like the more you cook, the easier it gets to figure things out without someone having to tell you, you know, this is how it goes. There's some notification at the top of my screen. Motion at your front door, ring doorbell. Okay, I think I got it off of there. All right, now I'm also going to use celery. Probably going to use all 3 stalks. And the other option I was thinking about using is I have cabbage that I grow in my yard. I have some heads of cabbage out there. I know it's January, but I still have all these vegetables. And I don't think I'll do it this time, but next time I'm going to use cabbage. And what I'm going to do with this cabbage instead later on is I'll just pan steam it so that it will be my cruciferous vegetables tonight. So, you know, why cabbage? Well, I don't have any fennel, and my recipe originally called for using some raw fennel, okay? And I think I put in there fennel, a fennel bulb in the instructions that I gave you or in the list of ingredients. Well, I haven't been to the store and I don't have any fennel, but I have celery. And celery can be a good, my oven's ready. Celery can be a good substitute for fennel. Not everyone can get fennel. So I have 3 celery ribs. That's what they're called. I see Debbie, Rosemary, celery ribs. And I'm going to cut those up and I'm going to put them in here with the onions. Celery is not as strong tasting as fennel, so it might actually be better if you don't love fennel, and I know lots of people who don't think fennel is all that great. But this dish originally called for some fennel. And the place I got the dish from, it's not my original recipe, is from the Rancho Gordo Vegetarian Kitchen. So I take a lot of recipes out of here and modify them because they all have butter and olive oil, and they're always way too salty, oily, so I have to kind of mess around with them. So I did that with this one, and I came up with this idea of using celery because I don't have fennel. And I do grow fennel, So like if it were a different time of the year, like maybe, you know, in the springtime, I would just go out in the garden and pick some fennel, which would be great. But right now, this is not the time of year for fennel. So I'm going to use celery, 3 ribs of celery. Put that in with my onions. So if you're cooking along with me, you know, you can put your onions and celery or fennel. If you have fennel, put the fennel in here. I think, I can't remember exactly how many I told you, but in the Rancho Gordo cookbook, they said 2 bulbs of fennel. And, you know, that's kind of deceiving because, hi Sharon, that's a great thought that you could use celery. Could you use lavage? I don't really know. I've never used that before. But yeah, fennel bulbs can vary in size too. Like the ones I grew in my garden were real small, but when I go to the grocery store, sometimes they're humongous. So I would say use on the smaller side, because remember, we're only going to put 2 cups of beans in here. So we really don't want gigantic amount of fennel. I'm just chopping up this garlic, and then I'm going to have to run into my other kitchen because I forgot the lid to my skillet, and I need to put the lid in. I'm just rough chopping this garlic, 2 cloves of garlic. It doesn't have to be cut into tiny little minced pieces. You know, this is a rustic dish, and the garlic is going to cook down. Okay, so I have garlic, celery instead of fennel, and onions. And the reason for the celery is not because I don't like fennel, it's because I don't have any. And you know, I don't really want to have to run to the store every single day. I've been doing enough running around. I'm going to get this lid to my skillet. Did you guys see the boxers in the beginning of the video? I'm going to add a tiny bit of water. When I started the video, I had the boxers in there. They crack me up. Let me make sure I didn't leave anything out. Yeah, that's it, yellow garlic. Okay, so they're so tired. I guess it's been a busy weekend. So they're so tired that this is how they assist me in cooking. They're just both laying here on their bed in my cooking classroom. So that's what they do. They're good companions. They're always interested in what I'm doing because what they're interested in is the end result. They want to taste whatever it is I make. Although I don't usually give them that much people food. Let's see if there's any questions. Hi, Anna. Hi, Alice. Okay, so next, I got the cutting done so I can move you closer. Oh, well, let me move this out of the way. Okay, now I've got this cooking, and next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the breadcrumbs ready. So I've got my food processor set up here, and I'm going to make breadcrumbs from bread. Strange idea, huh? Breadcrumbs from bread. This is Dave's bread. This is the good seed bread. I know they also have, someone said, love your shirt, Sharana. Thank you. Let's see. How long did your beans take to cook? My beans took 2 hours. I bring them to a boil and then let them boil really hard, like a hard boil for 15 minutes. And then I reduce the heat, and in 2 hours they were nice and soft. And the flageolet beans, the outside stays intact and the inside is creamy. So that's kind of good. So I'm gonna make my breadcrumbs. I'm just taking some toast. So I toasted my bread, and I'm just sticking it in my food processor. You can do it the opposite way. You can put bread in and then toast the breadcrumbs, but I knew that I really wouldn't have time to do that. I'm trying to do this video. So I'm doing it the opposite, and we'll see what happens. But this is, it's gonna be noisy for a second, just, you know, bear with me. It doesn't take that long. Look at it. Oh, it still needs some work. That's getting there. One more time. just going to call that good. They're not really small breadcrumbs, but they'll be fine for our purposes. So, and since they're toasted, because if we put, just plain untoasted bread on as breadcrumbs, I don't think they're as good. So it's good to toast your breadcrumbs if you can, and that's what I did with this. I toasted the bread and then made the breadcrumbs. I don't usually buy breadcrumbs, like already made breadcrumbs, just because I don't use them that often. It's like, I don't have that many reasons to use breadcrumbs. It's not one of my things. So, I just make my own. I usually just throw a piece of bread in the food processor. Here we go with the celery and onions. So I want to cook this. This actually is something that low and slow, cook it for 15 to 20 minutes to get the onions and the celery nice and soft, so they're getting there. And I'm gonna add a little bit more water to them and let them cook a little bit more covered. And that's one of my secrets, is I cook things covered on kind of a nice medium high, because we're not using oil. And since we don't use oil, we've got to do something to add some moisture. So a good way to do it is to add some water or broth. I'm adding water today because we're going to put some flavors in here. Add the broth or the water and cover it up. Well, that kind of speeds up the softening process because we want to get this nice and soft. So while that's going, we're going to talk about what other herbs and spices we're adding. We're not adding really any spices, but we're adding thyme. And I'll go ahead and put that in. This thyme is not very old. I haven't had it that long. And I think you can see all my spices here. You see I have this big Lazy Susan of spices right here on my counter. Well, I just get this brand of spices at the gourmet grocery store, and I just refill it with fresh spices all the time, fresh herbs and spices, because I go through them a lot. You guys see me, I'm always cooking. So, if you have your spices and herbs in the cabinet and you hardly ever use them, when you open them up, smell them. If they don't have any smell, chances are, they've kind of lost their flavor. And that happens. It can happen in about 6 months. Let's see, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon, I had to look at the recipe. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of dried thyme in here. And I went out to the garden to get some thyme, thinking I would use some fresh thyme, and my thyme plant died. I was so disappointed. That's never happened to me in years. Oops, there goes my lid. See if there's a question. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Yaj and Nancy. So there's my thyme. And then the other thing I'm going to put in here is fennel. So the recipe called for fennel bulbs. I didn't have any fennel bulbs, so I used celery. But I want to have the essence of fennel in my dish. So I bought this fennel a couple days ago for a curry dish I'm making. So it's really fresh. And I'm only going to use, let's say, a half a teaspoon of fennel. And what I'm going to do with it, because these are fennel seeds, you don't want to put fennel seeds in your food because fennel seeds are really hard. So I'm going to put them in my mortar, this bowl. This is one of those heavy duty mortar. This is the pestle. And I'm going to grind the fennel seeds. They grind really quickly because, this is pretty heavy duty, this thing. You don't have to mash it like that. It doesn't take much. You can just kind of grind it by grinding along the sides of the bowl. That's how you grind things down. You don't have to, beat on it. You can, but you don't have to. With herbs, mashing it down works, but with spices, it tends to work better just to kind of press them against the hard surface of this bowl. So that worked really well. Now I have my half a teaspoon of fennel, and if you could see in here, you could see it's all ground up into a powder, or not really a powder, but it's a lot finer. So I'm going to add that. If you could smell this, it smells really fresh because I bought that fennel seed. Like I said, I just bought it a couple days ago to use in an Indian dish. So I've got the fennel in here now, and I'm gonna let the fennel cook in here with the onions and the celery. So the smell is wonderful of the thyme, celery, onions, garlic, and now fennel, because we didn't use the raw fennel. I've got the essence of the fennel in here, and I think that's going to make it really good. So these are things that were not in the recipe. The recipe didn't tell me if you don't have celery, if you don't have fennel, substitute celery. If you don't have fennel, find some fennel seeds and grind them up. Those are things, you know, remember, you know, kind of cook as you go, improvise, think of new ways to make things, and that makes them your dish. A recipe sometimes is just kind of a guideline. It's just an outline. And I change recipes all the time because you know, ingredients I have on hand, or, you know, maybe I don't like certain items. Just because somebody likes something doesn't mean I'm going to like it. So I would really rather cook this a little bit longer, but I'm not going to, because in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on with it. I think it would, you know, cook it for a full 15 minutes and let it get really soft. I'm going to put 2 cups of my beans with the liquid. So what I did was I just took it out of my bean pot with the liquid. You can hear it sizzling. And I put it here in my skillet. I'm going to do it one more time. So that's 2 cups of the beans, and I'm going to show you how much I have left. And I'll let it just kind of cook. It's on low. It's on low heat here, so it's not going to really cook, but it's kind of blending all the flavors of the nice onions and garlic and celery and fennel seed and thyme, and you know, it just has this really nice appearance to it now. I don't know that you could really see it, but if you could see it, it looks so pretty. It's got, you know, the color of the flageolet beans and all of it. But what I have left, and I made 8 ounces of these beans. Half the bag is 8 ounces. And so what I have left is probably enough for a couple bowls of bean soup. Because having a small family, when I get these pound bags of beans, I make 8 ounces at a time, because I don't ever, unless it's pinto beans where I'll probably use a lot of them, you know, I don't want to have way too much of one kind of bean, because my experience has shown me that what will happen is I'll make way too many beans, and then I'll have all this leftover of one kind of beans. Like, for example, Christmas lima beans. I made a whole pound, and then I ate it a couple times, and they're good, but you know, I can only eat one thing so many times, and then I get kind of tired of it. So there I had all these Christmas lima beans, and so I put them in little bags and froze them. Well, they're still in my freezer because I haven't gone back there to get Christmas lima beans out, because I don't think they're my favorite kind of bean. Let's see if there's any questions. If you have a question, you can put your question out here. All right, so then we have to have the appropriate bowl or baking dish. I have this one. Isn't that pretty? I got this one at Home Goods or somewhere. It's a Rachel Ray. It's about a 9-inch, 1.5 quart casserole dish. And I think this would be good. And I'm going to go ahead and put the beans in here, because this is not a lot of food. This is just 2 cups of beans and then some cooked down vegetables. So it doesn't amount to a lot of food. So we don't want to put a small amount of food in a gigantic container. So you see how it's, you know, filled this up? And I really didn't know if that's what would happen. I just kind of made a guess. I was thinking about using this dish. I had this kind of white casserole dish. It's a Corningware 10-inch, but I think this would have been a little too big. It would have been 1 layer. So you would have to be careful not to cook it too long, because it might, you know, it might, without having this nice layer here, it might have cooked it too quickly. Okay, so now I've got my breadcrumbs, and I only need half a cup of breadcrumbs. I don't need all these breadcrumbs, so let me measure out half a cup of breadcrumbs just to show you how that looks. Okay, so here's my half a cup of my Dave's bread, and this is the good seed. which I like, and mainly my husband likes it, so we always have it. I don't really eat a lot of bread because in the Daily Dozen, even though, let me turn the stove off, even though bread is allowed, it's one of those things, the more bread you eat, the harder it is to lose weight. So if you're eating a lot of bread, you know, and you're not losing weight, then, you know, it's kind of like, don't eat bread, eat it once in a while. So I eat it, you know, maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week, one slice. So I use this Dave's Good Seed bread. Does it have oil in it? I think it has a trace of oil in it, but to me it's not enough to really bother me since I don't eat it very much and only one piece. Some people like Ezekiel bread because it has no oil, so I kind of recommend that, but I don't like it, so I tried it and I just didn't like it. And then Dave's bread in the green package for sure doesn't have any oil, but my husband likes the Good Seed bread, so he buys it all the time, and I don't want to tell him, well, you can only buy the bread that I like, because I don't even eat it that much. So that's what I have. I have the Good Seed. So this is my white bean gratin, or the Flageolet Gratin. And then what we do, and I'm going to taste it just because I'm curious as to the flavor of it. I'll use my little measuring spoon. It's already done. You know, it's edible right now. We put it in the oven. Oh, it's really good. It's all that celery and onion and the fennel seed and thyme and garlic. You can taste everything. It's really good, but what I want to put in here is a little more liquid. I think that I'm going to get a little bit more of my bean juice. I'm just going to kind of go in here, and I'm going to take some of my bean juice out of my pot of beans and sprinkle it over the breadcrumbs. And I think that will give it a little bit more liquid. So that's all I did. I just put a little extra bean juice. And what I'll do is I'll put this in the oven, and it takes about just 20 minutes. So we're going to bake it for 20 minutes until the breadcrumbs will get kind of crusty and it'll be all bubbly. But remember, it's already cooked, so it doesn't really need a lot of extra cooking. And I'm going to have that tonight for my dinner. My son is staying here with us. Carol said it's good. This is the first day I've been able to cook along with you because I'm off work. Well, that's good, Carol. Thanks for cooking along with me. This was so easy. You know, you see it really, having the beans ready is the big thing, is once the beans are ready, with the Rancho Gordo beans or any good beans, really, they're so good by themselves. We don't really have to do a lot to them. Like, I could just sit here right now and I could take these beans, these Flageolet beans that were just simply cooked with celery, carrot, and onions and garlic, and just sit down with a bowl of those beans and be very happy, because, and that's the reason I'm such a big fan of the Rancho Gordo beans, because they always taste really good just right out of the pot. And you know, there's a process that you have to go through. Like I get up early in the morning, so I get the beans out the night before that I'm going to cook for the day, and you don't have to soak them overnight. I soak them, well, for me, I get up so early, so at 5 in the morning I'm soaking beans. Janet said, you motivated me to make sourdough bread today. Oh, good. I hope that's turning out good. I'm going to make some tomorrow. So, but yeah, I soak my beans early in the morning, and Rancho Gordo recommends 5 to 6 hours. So I started soaking the beans at 5, and at 11 o'clock, because I'm doing this at 2 o'clock my time, so at 11 o'clock, I put the beans on. You know, I sauteed my onions, celery, garlic, carrots, boiled the beans for 15 minutes, put the lid on, cooked them for 2 hours, so that about 1 o'clock, well, no, it was like, it actually was closer to maybe 2.5 hours when I thought they were really ready. So at that time, it was about the time for me to start my live cooking demo today. They were done. And then I just, you know, I didn't really take much time. I went around and grabbed my celery, went out to the garden and picked a giant cabbage, just in case I decided to use cabbage. let's see, Stacy Mitchell, what time do you go to bed? I usually get to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 5, so it's 7 hours. And you know, even though I can sleep as long as I want, really, I don't have to get up that early. My mind clicks on about 5 o'clock, so I just get up. And I've had plenty of rest and sleep, and I use the first 2 hours of the day to work in my office, and that's when I'm following up on your messages and PayPal payments to cooking classes and whatever, you know. That's when I go back and read emails and send people links to their ebooks that they lost or whatever, you know. It's 5 in the morning, that's when I'm doing all that stuff. And then at 7 I go for my 90-minute, well, it's a 100-minute walk, 5 miles. Then I come back and have breakfast. So I soak my beans early in the morning, okay? And then that way they're ready. And I really make beans on Mondays, you know that, because I'm doing the bean of the week on Mondays. I don't cook beans that many other days of the week, although some days I might cook beans more than one day a week. But like tomorrow, I'm probably gonna make the red lentil soup. So I'll cook red lentil soup tomorrow, because this dish I made today didn't make that much, and so I'll eat it for dinner tonight, and I'll have probably some leftovers for lunch. So tomorrow I'm gonna make sourdough bread. I have sourdough starter that I feed every Monday. So I'm gonna feed it today, and it's gonna get active, and then tomorrow morning, or whenever it's active enough to start using it, sometimes it takes several hours to get to that point, then I'll make my bread, and we'll see how that goes. Marianne Campos says, my granddaughter watching says your cooking is good. Well, thank you. I hope she enjoys it. But that's it. It's very simple, and that was today's recipe, and I will post a picture of the beans once they're done, but really they're not going to look that different. You know, they were already ready. You see how they look cooked. They're just, you know, kind of a light colored bean. And there goes my lazy Susan is moving without me making it move. It's motion. So, you know, all I did was put breadcrumbs on the top, and then we sauteed some vegetables. So it's a very simple recipe. Thank you. Will your husband also eat this tonight? It depends. He's really funny. Like, he'll eat some beans, eat them. He may say no. He always has this thing where he says, oh, the beans are really hard on my digestion. But, you know, like for lunch, he drove all the way into town 20 minutes to get Chick-fil-A. Well, Chick-fil-A is fried chicken with French fries on a bun, and he can eat that twice a week, but it doesn't hurt his stomach. But beans will upset his stomach, he says. So that's my husband for you. Have you done red lentil soup before? Would love to see you create that recipe. Oh my goodness, that's like my staple. So I've done it on the Facebook Live video. So there is a Facebook Live video of me making the red lentil soup on here somewhere. If you do a search on this page for red lentil soup, I guarantee you it's on here. But that's probably a good one for me to do on YouTube, because then it'll be a lot easier to find. So I'll tell you what, I'll make that a YouTube recipe pretty soon, but not this week. This week my YouTube video is going to be a sushi roll. So on Wednesday, I'm going to do a YouTube video of making a plant-based sushi roll, just one with rice and different vegetables. And I'm going to use brown rice. So I'm going to make a sushi roll. And if you guys want to learn how to make a very simple brown rice sushi roll, then there'll be a YouTube video, and I'll post a link to it so you can see it. I've done some Zoom classes on how to make sushi, so some of you have already taken those classes, and you know, you probably don't even need to know, but there are a lot of new people that watch me now, and they don't know how to do that. So I thought it would be a fun thing to do, and you know, it's not that difficult, but unless you've done it before, it's a little bit, you know, more complicated than you would think. So that's what I'm going to do on Wednesday. Let's see, Tammy says, love that you tell us upcoming week recipes, helps me plan my week with you. Well, great. That's the only thing I have planned this week is this bean, and then the sushi. You need brown rice, some seaweed, get the 8-inch square seaweed, and then the filling will be things like carrots, cucumbers, avocado, sesame, ginger, tofu is good in there. You know, just any vegetable you like. You can put greens in it, you can put lettuce at the ends, all kinds of things. I would love to learn how to do sushi. Yeah, what really made me want to do it is whenever I post pictures of sushi that I get at the local sushi place, like last night my husband brought me sushi from my favorite sushi place, and all these people were like, oh, I can't get that, I can't get that. And I thought, well, you know, it's easy to make it. Of course, I didn't feel like making sushi last night after my cooking demo or my appearance on Chef AJ, which I was exhausted. Oh my gosh. You wouldn't think I would be after talking to her for an hour and making my little noodle thing. But those kind of things are kind of tiring because it's kind of stressful. You're on this show and trying to remember everything, and you know, it's not as easy and relaxing as you might think. So my husband got me the sushi last night, but people are always commenting, well, they don't have vegetable sushi where I live. Well, it's really easy to make your own sushi, and then you can put baked sweet potatoes in it. You could put asparagus, you could put mushrooms, you can put anything in your sushi. Let's see, Stacy says, loved you on Chef AJ, that's how I discovered you. Well, thank you, Stacy, I'm so glad you did. Julie Denton said, loved watching you on Chef AJ, you were great, thank you. She and I hit it off pretty well. She was really friendly and nice, and she made me feel relaxed. She's a good interviewer. So, and she didn't rush me. She was very, you know, take your time, you know, talk about your family. I just thought she had a really nice way of engaging. And so, and then when she said that she was going to have me back, my thought was, oh no, I have to do this again, because I was stressing out about that. Like, you know, you guys don't even know, the past few weeks I thought, all these people are going to be looking at my website or my YouTube channel and there's nothing on it, or you know, they're going to look me up. I need to make sure I have quality stuff everywhere. So I've kind of been, you know, working hard to try to make sure that people, if they find me, that I have good quality stuff. So I'm back to normal now, and I will keep doing Bean of the Week every Monday. Just pick a different bean out of my pantry full of beans and pick a recipe and then create something. And somebody requested the flageolet beans for today. That's how I went in the cabinet and got it out. So if you have a Rancho Gordo bean or any bean that you have and you want me to cook it, put it in the comments. And when I get ready to do the Bean of the Week, because it's every week, so I'm going to need a lot of ideas, then I'll may make your bean. So let's see, Terry said you were awesome yesterday, as always. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. One thing I can be is myself, so that's not hard to do, really, is to just, you know, speak about what I do authentically. And that's what you're going to see when you see me on these live videos. That's pretty much it. So make your beans. I hope your Flageolet Gratin turns out really well. I know mine is going to be awesome because I took that little sneak bite of it. It tasted so good. I almost want to have that for lunch. Tammy says, you're amazing. Oh, thank you. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go on YouTube and subscribe to it. It's Julia Dunaway. I have almost 900 subscribers now, and I need to get to 1,000 in order to get YouTube to recognize me. So if I get to 1,000 subscribers, that's a big deal. And I have to reach a certain number of hours on YouTube in order for YouTube to recognize me. So the more you watch my YouTube videos, the better it is. So I'll keep trying to post videos on YouTube. There's kind of a learning curve there. That's something that's been new to me, but I'm working on that. But I think the quality of the videos is a lot better on YouTube. I can get more in the picture. I can post the recipe right there with the video, and it's easier to find them. So that's why I'm trying to do more stuff on YouTube. But I'm going to keep coming on Facebook Live too. So thank you all for your time and attention. And Marianne said ours is in the oven now. Oh, Terry says would love a class doing Mayokoba beans. Okay, well then I'll do Mayokoba beans next Monday. Patty Bradley says I have to figure out how to subscribe. When you go to YouTube and you click on the person's picture, like search, it's under Julia Dunaway, and then there'll be a thing, it pops up and my picture's on there. If you click on my picture, then my YouTube channel pops up. And there's a little button that says subscribe. It's usually on the upper right. Just click that, and then whenever I do, the reason you should subscribe if you like my videos is whenever I post a new one, you'll get a message. You'll get a little message will come to you, and it'll say, Julia Dunaway posted a new video, and it might even have a little picture of my video. So that's what I do with the people I like to see their videos. I subscribe to their channel. That way I get notified when they have new content. So, you know, do it if you want to. If not, nope, no worries. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And thank you all. So next Monday we'll have the Mayokoba beans and any other beans you request. Carol says, thank you, I can't wait for dinner. Yeah, I think you'll like this. And if you made sourdough bread, this dish of beans with the fennel and thyme, that's kind of like a Mediterranean Italian, with one small piece, if you're following the Daily Dozen, one small piece of crispy, crunchy sourdough bread, and a big salad. Eat the salad first. A big salad, a small piece of bread, and a bowl of these beans. You'd have the best dinner in the world. Christine says, thank you, please can you make sourdough bread? Well, I'm learning how to make my bread. I'm experimenting every week because one of my classes for 2021 is a bread class. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the best I can do in making bread before I have my class. So once I master bread, like some of them are good and some of them are okay, once I really get some good recipes under my belt, I'm going to do my class first this year. And then, you know, I might do some things on YouTube or whatever, because it's hard to make bread with whole grain flour and no oil. Okay, so like a lot of bread recipes, sourdough bread recipes have white flour. And if you start making sourdough bread with whole wheat flour, those recipes want you to add oil. Well, if you don't add oil, the bread is kind of tough. It's not that good. So I'm trying to figure out the way to make the bread turn out where it tastes really good, but it doesn't have oil and it has whole grain flour. So this is a process. I'll keep you updated, and when I get it figured out, then I'll share it with you. But for now, I'm still kind of, every Monday, I'm going to be testing bread recipes, and I'll show pictures of my bread, and if I get a really great one, then I'll share it with you. All right, so let's see if there's any other questions. Oh, good Mother Stallard beans from Patty Bradley. Boy, if you have good Mother Stallard beans, don't waste them, because those beans, there's a waiting list to get those beans. Those are the best beans Rancho Gordo has. If you haven't already got on the waiting list for those beans, go on the site, and there's a section called Wait List Beans. Put your name on the waiting list for Mother Stallard beans. And the only way to make them is to make them just the Rancho Gordo bean method. Okay, just soak them for 5 or 6 hours, cook them with celery, onions, and carrots and garlic in your pot, exactly the way I cook them on that video on YouTube, and then eat the Mother Stallard beans just in a bowl with the broth and some good bread. And those beans they're thin-skinned and creamy, and they have the most luxurious taste. So there's no recipe that can do anything to improve the taste. Okay? Patty says, I know I wasted them once. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So yeah, don't waste those beans because they're almost impossible to get. Someone said they want Ayacote Amarillo beans. I have those. I can make those too. well, I'll start with the Mayakoba and then I'll do those next. And so what I do is I have all of Rancho Gordo's cookbooks. I have the Vegetarian Kitchen. I have the Heirloom Bean Guide, and I have like 4 Rancho Gordo cookbooks. I also have all their newsletters that they send every quarter with my bean shipment. So I go through all these different sources all the time to find something that appeals to me that I can transfer into something that we can eat. People that are following whole food, plant-based, no oil. So that's my research I do to do the bean of the week. And I'll keep doing that because I'm always looking for good recipes to showcase the good beans. So if you ever come up with any and you want me to make a recipe that you find and switch it around some, send me the recipe. All right, everybody, it is 2:45. I have to eat a light lunch because at 4 o'clock I have to go to the gym and work out, weightlifting. So I'm gonna have miso soup for lunch. I have some miso soup I made on Saturday. It's still good, it has vegetables in it, so I'm gonna have that for my very light lunch. And then tonight I'm having these delicious beans for dinner. My son is here and he will eat the beans with me. My husband, he probably won't, but my son likes all beans, so he'll eat the beans. So I hope you enjoy your beans. Post a picture of them so I can see what they look like. Mine are gonna be ready in, it looks like less than a minute, so wait, I talk so long that I'm gonna go ahead and take them out of the oven. That's perfect. Whew. I got a little bit of a steam bath, but isn't that beautiful? Look. See how the breadcrumbs on top of the beans got nice and toasty brown, so they're crunchy. Perfect. And then the beans, they still have some liquid, but not as much. And they kind of cooked into, it's almost like a casserole. So it's almost like a bean casserole. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you all were here to have this luscious Flageolet Gratin. So that was my recipe for today. Sorry about the noise. And I'll see you back here soon on Friday. For those of you who follow the 21-day challenge, we'll do the Friday recap. Okay, so bye everybody. I don't see any other questions, and hopefully I'll see you on Friday. Everybody take care.